Pranams, good evening to all of you. The core two ideas of the fifth chapter, Karma Sanyasa Yoga, maps into two aspects: the equal vision towards all beings when we live in this world, equal vision. And while we act in this world, act without the ego attachment. Ego attachment to what? Ego attachment to the results. So seeing all beings equal and act without the outcome orientation, the ego's play of looking into the outcome or the results. And if you look into our lives, we all see the challenges in this world, the world of comparisons and contrast. Also seeing the worth in relationships. See, we can see around us the unhappiness in human beings, unhappiness with the relationships, unhappiness with the colleagues in the workplace, unhappiness with the neighbors, including even siblings. So friends to siblings to neighbors to colleagues. So, it all starts from the comparison and looking into the worth in the relationships. So it starts from measuring one's own life against somebody else's life and their outcomes. It's all about a comparison culture, and that is very corrosive. Am I doing better than others? Am I doing better than him or her or others? So the comparison and looking into the worth in relationship. This is one of the problems the modern man is facing. The other one is basically the attachment towards the outcomes, letting go of outcomes, attachment to the outcomes. Even as parents, see, parents often suffer this kind of problems. It's all about the attachment to their child's outcomes, especially grades, to career, to marriage choices, right? So here Bhagavad Gita says, just do your duty and release the grip on how those things turn out, what sort of outcomes will come. Just release the grip on those things. Just do your duty, because those things are yet to happen and there is no reason for thinking upfront and looking at the outcomes, or even much before the outcomes come, straining the mind, bringing anxiety. So let go of the outcomes. First is basically the comparison culture. Second one is basically anxiety about the outcomes. Let go of those outcomes. And the conflicts that come. That is where the ego plays a role. Conflicts while we interact with others. Ego in conflict and forgiveness. A lot of conflicts even in the relationship with the partner, with the parent, with the friend. And probably the issue would be the disagreement, actual disagreement. And also our own ego trying to defend the version of being right or wrong. I am right, or he is right, or he is wrong, or he will not be right, but I am always right. The version of being right. Or sometimes the version of being owned by myself rather than somebody else. So that is where the conflict of the ego plays a role in doing this kind of conflicts. And again, the forgiveness. Why should I forgive? Why should I compromise? So that is where fifth chapter says you renounce the ego. Renounce the ego for winning. Renounce the ego for doing the validation. So renounce the ego, especially the emotional outcome that can come when we interact with others. So just park those things. Park the ego there when we interact with others. And on the top of all these things, the stress that we all undergo in life. That's where Bhagavad Gita says primarily the stress is not from the actions. The stress is primarily caused by the mind's relationship to the activity. Right? The activity is not the problem. The stress is not coming from the activity always. The exhaustion mainly comes from the mind's relationship with the activity or with the activities. Sometimes while we take rest also, we get stressed. After taking a nap, after taking some rest, when we look from the lens of productive time, we will become stressful. So stress is not really coming from the actual life. Stress basically comes from the gap that our mind creates between our life and the curated version of somebody else's life. See, the gap between what we see in our life and the tailored version or a curated version of somebody else's life or outcomes, and which probably may not be right also. So that is where the mind frames this kind of gap. So what happens is basically ultimately the issue will be stress and burnout. So that is where fifth chapter says the antidote, the medicine is basically what come out of the identification with the outcomes. Just execute the work, because we can't fully control the outcomes. So now the 10th verse of 5th chapter says Brahmanyadhyaya karmani sangham tyaktva karoti ya lipyate na sa papena patmapatramivambhasa. Brahmani adaya karmani sangam tyaktva karoti ya lipyate na sa papena patmapatram iva ambhasa. One who does the action for just the sake of action without attachment. Right here, Brahmani adaya karmani. So the one who offers the action unto Brahman, into the highest reality. Sangam tektva karodiya. Sangam meaning attachment. Tektva, give up. Karodiya, performs. The one who performs the actions without attachment and offering to the Brahman. Lipyade na sa papena, is not affected by that person due to the papam, due to the sins which come out of the karma. Like just as the leaf of a lotus, Padma Patram Iva Ambasa, just as the leaf of a lotus does not get wet. Resigning all the actions to the Brahman, that person is not tainted by the sin. Sin meaning the kalanga, the impurities that come out of the karma. Just like a lotus leaf which is inside the water but never touched by the water, never touched by the impurities of the water. That jnani is living in the world, but the world doesn't touch that person. So this is the greatest state of the mind of a person. Let us try to understand it in a deeper way. How the attachment happens? Through the result of action or towards the action itself. I want to do that. I want to particularly do this. This is my area. I want to do that. Could be through action. Could be through the results of the action. By doing this, I am going to get this. And I am the one who is going to do that. I am the owner. I want to do that. That sense of ownership. And also, I will never do. Let me see how others will make it happen. Let me not do that. I will never do. So through action, attachment comes. Through the result of the action, through the sense of doership, and also through the sense of non-doership. Correct. I think you all will be able to easily comprehend this. And while one does the action, as we discussed before, ragam, dvesham, kartrutvam, bhoktrutvam. These are the 4 aspects which are involved while we do the action. I hope you all are with me. See, the attachment happens through action, through the results of the action, through the sense of ownership, sense of doership, and also the sense of non-doership. And while we do act, what happens? These 4 stains will come: ragam, dvesham, kartrutvam, bhoktrutvam. Attachment, aversion, doership, and enjoyership. Correct? So now, here a jnani will transcend all of these by offering it to the Brahman, to the self, to the highest power. There is no accumulation of karma vasana. Just as the lotus leaf, which is not getting wet, which is not getting affected by the water or the impurities of the water. In the 4th chapter, 21st verse, we can see Nirashir yata chittatma tyakta sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvan apnodi kilvisham. Shariram kevalam karma kurvan apnodi kilvisham. And the non-possessiveness in action, just doing the work. Shariram kevalam karma. You don't take the ownership. Tyakta sarva parigraha. So don't claim the ownership over it or attach the identity to it. You just do the work. Tekta sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvan apnodi kilvisham. Or if we go back to our second chapter, 50th verse, buddhi yukto jahadiha ubhe sukrita dushkrite tasmad yogaya yujjasva yoga karma sukaushalam. So while we act in life, there needs to be some skill, and that skill comes from yoga. The intellect is united in the steady yoga. And ubhe sukrita dushkrite, it casts off both good and bad results. So the idea of equanimity towards the outcome, whether it is good or bad. So the skill is what? Ubhe sukrita dushkrite tasmat yogaya yujjasva yoga karma su kaushalam. The skill. What is the skill? Ownerless excellence. Excellence is the skill. That excellence is also accompanied by the state of ownerless, or the mamatva rehita, acting with full skill but hold no ownership over the outcome, neither the credit for success nor the burden over the outcome, burden of the failure. So do the work as if it were entirely yours. So entirely yours to perfect it, and at the same time entirely not yours to own. Act with perfection, full perfection. You own the perfection for the action, but don't own the outcomes. Don't entirely own the outcome of that. It's all about you fully engage. So full engagement with zero possessiveness. This is the skill. Because zero possessiveness only will help in overcoming the dualities, the dvandva. Ubhe sukrita dushkrite tasmad yogaya yujjasva. So it is all about you care the process of doing. Don't get into the outcome orientation. Just care about the process of doing, flawlessly do, full engagement with the zero possessiveness. This is the greatest state of mind, mamatva rehidam. So that is where it says, though floating, the lotus leaf, where are they? They are in the water. They are floating in the muddy water. The lotus leaf remains, what is the right word? Impermeable. Unsoiled. Unsoiled by the water, unsoiled by the impurities of the water. Similarly, a jnani, similarly a yogi lives in this muddied sensory world of Maya. So, how to live in this sensory world of Maya? There needs to be two moves. One is basically offer the action. Offer the action without sangham. You just offer the action. To whom? To the highest truth, to the Lord. This is the cornerstone of Karma Yogam. You offer the action. And drop what? Drop the sangham. Drop the personal clinging. Don't try to take the credit of the outcomes. You cannot call it as my outcome and all those things. So, offering to the highest truth, that is where it says Brahmani adhaya karmani sangham tyaktva karodiya. offer to the highest truth, offer to that Lord, offer to Bhagavan. And also come out of the Sangham Tiktva. So you do the both. And just drop the results. Don't just be anxious about the results. It will come. So the way the water rolls off a lotus leaf, right? It is not getting soaked. So lotus leaf has got the natural coating. Maybe in a technical term we can say super hydrophobicity. It will never get wet. So that lets the leaf to stay in the muddy water and remain clean. So this analogy is used for what? To compare with our internal version of the mind. There should be coating in the mind. Coating in the mind for what? For the full engagement and zero absorption of the worldly problems. Full engagement, right? It is in water. Lotus and lotus leaf both are in water. Full engagement, like us, we are in this world. Full engagement we have to have. But at the same time, not getting affected like the lotus leaf. No absorption, zero absorption. We all know the story of Janaka Maharaja, Rajarshi, King Janaka, who ruled the kingdom of Mithila, who managed the treasuries, managed the armies, managed the court, dealt with the politics of the court, associated with lot of sages, and the sages called him as the Rajarshi. Then the Mithilapuri, when the capital was reported to be on fire, at that time people started running to Maharaja. So there the Janaka Maharaja says, nothing of mine burns. That sense of self. And it was never invested in the palace to begin with. I own, or I rule, not own, I rule, I deal. But that sense of self was not superimposed on the palace or the kingdom. So Janaka Maharaja, he held the crown, but the crown never held him. I was listening to one of the TV interviews of Malayalam, very senior actor who takes the role of villain. And in that TV interview, the interviewer was asking, how you manage your life? Because most of the movies I have seen, you are a villain, and how you manage? So the villain, the actor, he was saying, I have a full commitment to the character because I need to be a villain. I am paid for that. So in front of the camera, I act, and while the cameraman says or the director says, cut, that is where the total detachment happens. Because the role that I am playing, when the cut comes from the cameraman, that's it. I am no more playing that role. So this is where he was saying total performance, no compromise on the performance of the role where I am taking money. The moment director says cut, right, I come out of the total performance without any personal residue. Similarly, how the lotus leaf is inside the water, and water is there everywhere, surrounded by the water. The logam is there, the universe is there, the world is there. So in the world, one has to do the total performance without the personal residue coming from the world, without letting the water coming into the leaf, or without the absorption. So one can be fully engaged. One can be in a chaotic situation. One can be in a toxic workplace also. Or one can be in a family where a lot of conflicts are there. Or one can be in a situation like the relationships are very much demanding. So the answer is basically, the verse says, without affecting our internal state, you can be fully doing the performance there. And when somebody around you shouts at you, they are expressing the angry, they are expressing the anger. So the choice is within us not to become angry at that person. So similarly, we all see crisis around us. It is up to us whether that crisis has to be taken into the inner plane. So that crisis need not get affected our nervous system. So that is where in science it's called as the permeability. See, the emotional permeability, the emotional identity. So the question is emotional permeability versus emotional identity. The water touching the leaf is like the worldly emotions touching us. Worldly emotions in the sense sadness, frustrations, disappointment, unhappiness of people around us, or even including our own unhappiness that can happen through the interactions that we have in life with the people. So can we say these can be avoided? No, because we cannot avoid this. These interactions, these contacts are very much unavoidable, and even necessary also, because without conflicts we cannot grow. In an organization, when we work, we deal with people have different views, and even the leaf is basically water resistant. So we need to have that resistance, that whether it is a professional resilience or a mental resilience, we should have. See, even in our own professional world, a lawyer, a surgeon, or a person who is dealing with the customer service, right? Daily customers will express their frustrations. Sometimes we say these customer rep they have a thick skin. Right? So we all have to be, even including a doctor, a surgeon, or an engineer who is dealing with the products, even supporting the customer. They all will express their disappointment. So we have to be fully present in the world, and we have to be skilled. We have to be in that moment also, like fully in the water, because lotus and lotus leaf cannot go out of the water. Fully in the water, skilled, present in that moment, without letting the difficult interactions and creating a permanent residue in me. Simple. Raga, Dvesha, Kartrutva, Bhoktrutva. We cannot accumulate this. So what are those two things? Brahmani Adhaya Karmani. Dedicate to the Brahman, the highest truth. Sangam Tektva Karodiya. Performance without attachment. So detachment as the resilience. Very, very important. Detachment as the resilience here. Detachment as the resilience and not accumulating the karmic residues. Very, very profound words. Brahmanyadhyaya karmani sangam tektva karodiya lipyate nasapapena padmapatram bhasa. Next verse. Kayena manasa buddhya kevalairindrayiravi yogina karma kurvandi sangham tektyatma shuddhaye. Kayena manasa buddhya kevalair indriyairavi yoginaha karma kurvandi sangham tektva atma shuddhaye. It's a continuation of the previous verse. Yogina. So who is the yogi? Yogi is the one who abandons the attachment. Kayena manasa buddhya kevalai indriyai api. So sangam tektva atma shuddhaye. The yogis abandon the attachment, perform the work with the kayam, manasa, buddhi, indriyam. Perform the work with the body, mind, intellect and the senses. For what? For the Atma Shuddha, Atma Shuddhaye. Only for the self-purification. They do the work, they do the body, mind, intellect, senses. They abandon the attachment. They perform the work using the body, mind, intellect, senses. For what sake? For the self-purification, for the Atma Shuddhaye. Attachment by giving up. Tektva Atma Shuddhaye. Sangam Tektva Atma Shuddhaye. See, if you see the modern philosophy, the so-called as the permanent happiness or the flow, or if you see the Japanese culture, their concept of ikigai. Flow is something where one gets immersed into things and see the happiness there. Similar to the ikigai, the Japanese version of their culture of that happiness. So here Bhagavan Krishna says for the concept of this sloka is much beyond, much above, where this flow or ikigai got, or maybe this slogam can be the seed of all the new philosophies around this. It is not, see, if you see in the flow also you find love in the work. Here it is much above that. You don't choose the work for love and all. It is not to find work you love. It is any work done without attaching into that. Because the work itself is a purifier. So there is no grasping or attaching to the work, because the work itself becomes a purifier. It is not something like you find a work that gives happiness or something. Whatever is the work. And if you see the Puranic story, the story of Vishwakarma, the one who is the divine architect, the craftsman of the Devas. If you see Vishwakarma as the character, never renounced the tools to attain the divine. The tools especially made Vishwakarma, or we can say the tools became the sadhana for the Vishwakarma. So the palace the Vishwakarma built, the chariot, or anything of that sort, all are offered to the Lord, not based on the ego. Whereas if you see Duryodhana as a character, so we should also admit the fact that Duryodhana also a very hard-working person, right? Lot amount of hard work he also put, whole life in trainings, strategizing, even ruling, right? All those things, every action Duryodhana also did, but only problem is every action he was saturated with what? Saturating with the attachment, or saturating with the grasping meaning absorption of the outcomes, grasping the ego for what? Ego for the possessions, ego for the throne, ego for taking a revenge. I will teach them. So if you see the two characters, basically the effort, if you see the category of effort, completely different. One purified the mind, whereas the other one accumulated the karmic imprints, karmic residue with every action. So that's where in some other place we can see the term Yoga Yuktan. Yoga Yuktan meaning what? The one who is completely stabilized in that self-knowledge. One who is aware of the self, the capital I, not the mind, not the ego. So the yogi will do the work for the sake of Atma Shuddhi, for the sake of the mental purification. So the work becomes the avenue for the mental purification, and every work will make more and more closeness to that self. Every work will make the mind clear and pure. So the work will become an experience to realize the self, becomes more clearer and become hurdleless. The mind will become more and more clear and will become less hurdle. So why they do the karmam, why they do the challenges? To meet the ability of the mind to become pure and clean. They do more work for what? For making the mind clean and pure. They do work for getting rid of the distractions of the ego, getting rid of the ego's demand to possess. Work is inherently done to get rid of the selfishness, self-interest. Because when one operates with that selfishness, the stress will come, the anxiety will come, frustration will come, fear will come. So that is where yogis will always offer the work to That's why in the previous sloka says Brahmani Adhaya Karmani. Everything has a worship of the God, worship of the self. Otherwise, what will happen? If we don't have that attribute, then we are living in the world, living on worldliness, living in samsaram. So that is where the 11th verse says Kayena manasa buddhya kevalaiirindriyairavi yogina karma gurvandi sangam tyektatma shuddhaye, giving up the attachment, sangam tyektva, and they do work for purely atma shuddhi, just for the self purification. And in fact, we should also not wrongly understand that the self doesn't need any purification. Self is always pure, but the mind needs a purity, right? The self which is behind and beyond the mind needs the mind which is not pure needs to be purified. The self is always clean and pure. So when you say Atma Shuddhi, it is basically the Shuddhi of Manas, Shuddhi of the mind, the cleanliness of the mind. So instead of chasing the experiences and chasing the outcomes, take the action as, take every work as an avenue to purify the mind. Every work as a capability to create inner steadiness. And what happens? That will lead to the realization of the self, experience the bliss. So karma yoga as the technique to clean, to make the mind pure and experience that self. In Srimad Bhagavatam, in the Ekadasha Skandha, in the 11th canto, in the part is basically the Nimi Navayogi Samvada, where Kavi explains the Bhagavata Dharma and Hari explains the attributes of a Bhagavata. When you say Bhagavata Dharma, it's basically the Karma Yoga and how a Karma Yogi should be, or what are the attributes of a Karma Yogi. So the verses are basically in the 11th Skandam. Kayena vacha manasendriyirva buddhyatmana va anusruta svabhavat karodi yat sakalam parasmai narayanayedi samarpayed bhayam didiyabhiniveshadasyad ईशादवेदस्य विपर्ययो स्मृति तन्माययादो बुधा भजेतं भक्तिगयेशं गुरुदेवदात्मा अविद्यमानोऽप्यभवादि द्वया ध्यादुर्धिया स्वप्नमनोरथो यदा तत्कर्म संकल्प विकल्पकं मनो बुधो निरुन्द्यादभयं ततस्यात् कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा अनुसृत स्वभावात् करोति यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयेतद्. So dedicate everything. Kayena vacha manasendriyarva buddhyatmana va anusruta svabhavat. So one cannot get perfection from these things, from the body, mind, intellect, senses. So you dedicate every action which is done through the object of actions. Through these things, one achieve the actions. You dedicate all those to Narayanan. Yat yat sagalam parasmai Narayana samarpayetad. You dedicate everything, because the imperfections in the karma that could happen, you dedicate everything to the Lord. Also, in the next verse, Bhayam Didya Viniveshadasyad Ishad Avedasya Vivaryayo Smriti. So the distance from the self will create the Bhayam. Distance from the Lord, distance from the self, distance from the Brahman creates Bhayam. And in the next verse, Avidyamanopi Avabhadi Hidvaya Yadurdiya Swapna Manoradho Yada Tatkarma Sangalpa Vigalpagam Mano Buddho Nirundyad Abhayam Tadasyad. There is the weak capacity of the mind in the human beings. Why the weak capacity comes? Due to the disturbance in the mind, due to the impatience in the mind, due to the lack of capability to grasp the higher truth, because they are lost in the world. What is really needed? Abhayam tadasyad, the bhakti. Practical way is to execute the action through the bhakti, through the surrender. Surrender in the God, surrender in that higher self. That is where Bhagavad Gita calls this Bhagavad Dharma as Karma Yogam. So Bhagavad Dharma is the practical way to live in this world. What is that? Renounce the ownership, doership, agency. Dedicate, surrender everything to the Lord. So you just you involve actively in this world. The outcome should be the inner purification. So when I say actively involved, you manage excellence. You do the actions in the right way and consider all actions as an avenue for the inner purification. With that prabhati, with that sharanagati, with that surrender. And in that journey, one will be able to recognize the profound dimension of the truth within, the real personality, so called as the self. And that real self is Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Swabhava. Nitya meaning what? Nitya means ever. Shuddha means pure. Nitya Shuddha Buddham. Buddha meaning awakened. Muktam means free, always, ever free. So that is the inner self. All actions need to be executed with that Sharanagati, agencyless action. The mindset of purifying the mind to realize that self, and that self is ever pure, awakened and free. In one of the Upanishads, Amrita Bindu Upanishad, I think, Manohi Dividam Proktam Shuddham cha Ashuddham eva cha Ashuddham Kama Samyuktam Shuddham Kama Vivarjidam. So mind will be like two types, Shuddham and the Ashuddham. So Ashuddham Kama Samyuktam. Ashuddham is all, outcome oriented, desire oriented, selfish oriented. Shuddham Kama Vivarjidam. Shuddham is basically the less attached. So, the extent of Sharanagati or Prapatti, the extent of Samarpanam and less attachment will make the mind pure, the Andakarana Shuddhi. So that is where the Shuddham Kama Vivarjidam. So what happens when the Ishvara Samarpanam is there with less attachment? One will be able to work with increased productivity. So here Karma Yoga is all about increased productivity and increased purification of the mind. And in that process, realizing the true nature. So what is really needed while we execute the actions? Make the mind clear, pure, fresh, strong. Make the mind or train the mind to be free, pure, noble. That is where this chapter, the whole chapter is saying karma sannyasa. And that is the only way to end the suffering. Verse number 12. Yukta karma bhalam tyaktva shantimapnodi naishtigim ayukta kamakarena phale sakto nibadhyate. Yukta karma bhalam tyaktva. So, Yuktan and Ayuktan. So, one who is endowed with Karma Yogam, result of action, Karma Bhalam, Tektva, giving up, Shandim Apnodi Naishtigim. So, whereas the Ayuktan is basically the one who is not committed to the Karma Yogam, to do the Karma Yogam. Ayukta Kama Karena, and Ayuktan operates with the desires. Phale sakta nibadhyade, attached to the results, he is bound nibadhyade. So, in the last verse, we saw that the Karma Yogi, what they do, the Jnani, the real Yogi, the Karma Yogi, gives up the attachment and performs the actions for what? Performs the actions for cleaning the mind. In that journey will be realizing the self. And here there is no likes and dislikes. Without being impelled by the likes and dislikes. And using the same equipments, body, mind, intellect, senses, for what? For the purification of the mind. So such a person is called as the Karma Yogi, or in this context it's called as Yuktan. One who is endowed with Karma Yoga. And whereas an Ayuktan, who is an Ayuktan? Ayuktan is introduced here. Ayuktan is the one who is not established in this, who is still attached to the fruit of actions, will get phale sakta nibadhyate, will get entangled due to the desires, kama karena, due to the entanglement of the desires, due to the attachment on the outcomes, he is bound nibadhyate. So that is where goal attachment burnout will happen for the people who are not doing karma as karma yogam. See, 500 years back, in this verse, Bhagavan Krishna identifies that, detachment from outcome only will bring the best performance. Measurably, improves the outcome when you are detached from the outcome. Measurable improvement of outcome when one is detached from the outcome. So, the one who is attached to the outcome is Ayuktan, who is not a Karma Yogi. So, what Bhagavan says is, you become a Yuktan. you become a Yukta, Arjuna. You become a Viveki, you become a Karma Yogi. Let the Prasada Buddhi drive you rather than you becoming an Ayuktan. Who is an Ayuktan? The one who is impelled by the sensory pulls and desires. Kama Karena. Phale Sakta Nibadhyade. One who is attached and becomes bound will become Nibadhyade. See, in life there are 4 types of people. The first type is Baddhan, who is bound, where maybe we can, in this context, we can say the Ayuktan is Baddhan, the one who is bound. The second one is Mumukshu, bound but still, struggling to become free, Mumukshu. And third is Muktan, through or by struggle, that person came out, achieved the freedom, came out of the samsara and achieved the freedom. And the fourth is Nitya Mukta, ever free from bondage. So which are those 4? Baddhan, Mumukshu, Baddha, Mumukshu, Mukta, and the Nitya Mukta. See, there comes the famous story of a fisherman who visited along with his friend to a lake, right? They both visited. They identified that this lake in that village is having lot of fish. So they both were discussing, looking at the lake, and they both were discussing that, yeah, I mean, it's a good deal. Let us do one thing. Let's plan for the hunting of fish tomorrow. And they plan to cast the net, fish net. See, one of the intelligent fish understood their conversation, and that fish communicated to the others, hey, there is a plan for the fisherman who came here to fish us, to catch us. Let us escape, right? And that fish told there is also a route to escape, because this is connected to other lake. So at that time, few said, yeah, no problem, we will deal it. Let them come. When they come, we will deal it. We will see the way to escape. The next day, the fisherman came. He put his net. So when he pulled out, many fish, many were caught. Some fish that got caught trying to desperately escape, come out. Some escaped also, some in the process of escaping, and some got caught and not at all trying to escape. They are relaxed, right? Some did not get into the net, some got and tried, escaped, some still trying to escape, and some not at all even trying to escape. So that is where the Baddha, who is Baddha, the one who got trapped and not at all trying to escape, stopped the effort to escape. They got adapted. They are now in the comfort zone, mistaking that this net, inside the net is their bigger world. That bondage has become very, very comfortable for them. Now coming to the mumukshu, the seeker, the ones who are desperately trying to come out of the net. The third, Muktan is basically what? The liberated ones. So they also struggled, but they came out. And the Nityamukta is basically the ever free, those which did not get into the net. Though the ones who cleverly escaped to the other lake, or did not even they know how to escape without getting into that. So that is how the human life is also. Right. So Ayuktan is the one who is like our Badhan, got trapped, don't know how to come out. So the Karma Yogi will become a Mumukshu to Muktan to a Nitya Muktan. And in that process, they execute the work, they take every work as an avenue to purify the mind and understand the self which is behind and beyond the mind. Verse number 13. Sarva karmani manasa sanyasyaste sukham vashi navadvare pure dehi naiva kurvanna karayan. Sarva karmani manasa sanyasya aste sukham vashi. Vashi meaning the one who is self-controlled, Jidendriyan in the previous context. If you relate, the one who overcome the sensory pulls. So here the one who is self-controlled, Navadvare pure dehi naiva kurvanna karayan. The master of the Navadvara Pure Dehi. So Dehi is the Deham has the Navadvara. The Deham has the Navadvara, and Dehi is the owner of this Deham. Like in Srimad Bhagavatam, the Chadusloki says, Bhagavan Sarva Bhudanam Adhyaksho Avasthido Guham. So the master of the 9-gated city, Navadvare Pure Dehi. So here if you see the 9 openings inside of a human being, all these openings, right? The two ears, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, the mouth, and the 2 lower orifices of human beings. So, the one who lives, the real self is living in this body. The one who is owner of the body, and the body, the representation of the body is given as the 9 gates. If you see the explanation of the Radha Sankalpam in Kadopanishad, Atmanam Redhinam Viddhi Shariram Radhamevatu Buddhim tu Saradim Viddhi Manapragrahamevacha Indriyani Hayanyahur Vishayansteshu Gocharan Atmendriya Manoyuktam Bhoktetyahur Manishana. The body is like a chariot. The owner is the Atma. The horses are like Indriya, and the mind is the control for those Indriyas, those horses, the rein. Buddhim tu Saradim Viddhim. Who is the charioteer? The Buddhi. Buddhi is the charioteer. And here, self is, that's why, Navadvare Pure Dehi Naiva Kurvanna Karayan. Is not at all performing. The real self is neither acting nor causing any action. So here, an awakened mind should understand that the changing states of the body, mind, intellect, senses cannot be my true nature. Here, the Dehi is the changeless substratum behind the changes. In chapter 13, we can see Idam Shariram Kaundeya Kshetramityabhidiyade Edad Yo Vetidam Prahu kshetrajna iti tadvidaha. Knower of the field versus the field. Idam shariram kaunteya kshetram ityabhidiyade. So you understand your body as the kshetram, the idam shariram kaunteya, idam shariram Arjuna. Edatyo vetidam prahu kshetrajna idi tadvidaha. The knower of the field versus the field. Field is the body. Who is the knower of the field? Who is the knower of the body? That Dehi. And that Dehi lives in this Navadwara, in this Kshetram. Please understand that the Dehi is the owner, and Dehi is not performing or causing one to perform. The true knowledge is that the understanding of the distinction between the field and the knower of the field. So here, the one who knows the knower of the field, and this whole journey is the even kayena manasa buddhya to yukta karma bhalam tektva, all those process of executing karma mas karma yogam is to know the knower. The water, like in the lotus case, it is the field of experience. One has to know the experiencer. The body is like Prakriti, body is nature, body is matter. And the consciousness is the knower of the field. The real I is not the body, mind, intellect, senses. The real I is just operating through the body, mind, intellect, senses. But the real I is not the body, mind, intellect, senses. The real I is the awareness. The real Dehi is the awareness that knows the changes which are happening in the body, mind, intellect, senses. And that awareness is changeless. So knowing that truth, knowing that self is the ultimate aim, and by being a karma yogi, by having the path of karma sannyasam, one will be able to achieve that. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Kayena vacha manasendriyarva buddhyatmana va prakriti svabhava karomi yat sagalam parasmai narayanaye iti samarpayami.